been an interesting one for sure. And I think, Tim Cartmel got started really early. So depending if you were kind of in a circle where you were starting to hear that buzz, I feel like it's been going on a really long time. But lots has happened. It's been eventful. That said, I feel like in recent days, a lot of people I've spoken to, anecdotally, have not been overly passionate
Right.
in one direction. So I think people have known it's been going on. They feel pain points with municipal issues. But I think we saw the high undecided voter counts, and I feel like that was palpable around the city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Emmanuel, how about you? What have you been hearing? What are people saying to you about this election and some of the issues and just the general interest that's out there?
Well, yeah, I think thanks for having me. And the general sentiment has just been around, like you mentioned, just low interest in the voting. But I think also part of it is just the complex issues that have sort of found their way into Edmonton politics. You talk about new rules from the provincial government. You're talking about the new influx of money. You're also talking about the large undecided bloc. So all those things are combining, but I think generally interest has just been down.
Are you talking about the large influx of money into some of the campaigns?
That is correct, yes.
We'll talk about that in a minute. Troy, how about your take on what has happened so far regarding interest and also even about tonight? We are talking about a new system where a lot of people are waiting still, and the polls closed just over an hour ago.
And they won't be waiting for very long because of the low interest. If you're in line for 2 hours and you're not very interested, you're going to go home and watch the Canada Blue Jays as they try to clinch the World Series.
Yeah.
I think part of it, too, leads from the candidates, right? A candidate has to drive interest in a race. And in this race, we've had a slew of candidates that are saying this is an election about change when there are 3 terms, 2 terms, and 2 terms on council, respectively. So I think there's a lot of disillusionment with voters saying, well, are you sure this is an election about change? Because it sure doesn't seem like one.
Yeah. What do you make, Annika, of the wait and how this new system has been received by people? It almost seems as though they didn't anticipate having to wait in line and fill out a form, whereas in the past you would just have to come in, show your ID, they'd look at a list, and away you go.
Yeah, it was interesting at the polls today. We went about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Normally would have just gone over to Grosvenor School. Would have been easy peasy. We were not at Grosvenor School this year. We didn't get a voter card because of the postal strike.
Yeah, there's that too.
So a few added elements, but we were speaking to a lot of folks in line, which was a fun silver lining to the wait. And I think a lot of people thought it was because of the manual tabulation, but it wouldn't have necessarily made sense that it would have been at that point. So I think we were saying perhaps the attestation letters were the point. I'm not sure what the pinch point was. I heard a lot of people talking about leaving, whether it was for work, meetings, accessibility measures.
Right.
At one point, there was someone saying, I can't stand. I'm like, well, you can vote. I would rather you vote, and I can wait another minute.
Yeah.
But when you look at that, it's unfortunate, right? I think regardless of who wins, I would love to see high voter turnout to show that, people are passionate about their city. And so to see that, an extra barrier is being put in the way and possibly hindering truly the democracy that could have happened today. Speculative. I don't know for sure, but I certainly did witness folks leaving the polls and they weren't making a plan to come back. So that's troubling.
That's too bad
Yeah.
that was happening. Emmanuel, what was your experience today when you went to vote?
Well, my experience was I had to go twice. I went first in the morning, waited for half hour, and then it just got really frustrating because the line was long. And then I live in a high voter turnout area, so just people really engaged downtown Edmonton. And yeah, it took about half hour for me the first time, and I just had to go. So I left, came back again maybe about an hour and a half later, and waited another hour and a half to be able to vote.
An hour and a half.
That is correct.
And what time was that at?
And that was around closer to 12.
Wow.
So my first time there was 9:30-ish.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was very long. It was frustrating. And my area has a lot of seniors, and so I think I witnessed that the polling station wasn't even prepared to handle the seniors. Just off the cuff, they started to pull out chairs for them to sit down because the lines were really long. And you could also hear, just people saying it's not been like this before. They had to fill out a form that nobody told them about, and they just only found out when they walked in. they, they're looking around and trying to figure out, with all these hundreds of people, why are there only 3 people sitting there punching into computers? And so those type of things were really frustrating for people. And yeah, I did witness a few people just turn around and walk away.
I feel like I got away lucky. I did not have to wait an hour and a half, but there certainly was a wait. Troy, you and I talked before we walked in here about no electronic tabulators this time around, and that is clearly being reflected in, Emmanuel was saying he had to wait an hour and a half. Were you above or below that?
I had a joyous time voting. I voted on October 7th. I was one of the 41,000 Edmontonians who cast their advance polls.
Okay.
And I think that is one of the big takeaways here is if we are going to be engaging in this process with voter attestation forms, we need things like getting those done in advance or just doing more advanced polls. We had half the number of advanced polls days that we had in 2021. Granted, we had extra because of COVID, but there are some changes that happened, forced our hand during COVID, that are actually just good changes that we should probably keep around. And I think more advanced opportunities was one of those.
Yeah, I think, that is reflected by the advanced polling. You mentioned just over 40,000, 60+ thousand in 2021. So 20,000, almost just shy of 20,000 votes lower this time around. Troy, I'll stay with you. What stands out about the way, some of the top mayoral candidates have positioned themselves for this election?
I mean, I mentioned the change thing, right? You have Andrew Knack running as sort of like the progressive keep on, keep it on candidate. Right. And then everyone else in the race is running on some form of change. For Tim Cartmell and Michael Walters, that runs a little bit sketchy because two-term councillor, though Michael Walters has had a 4-year hiatus. Right. And down ticket with some of the others like Raheem Jaffer, who has, a long storied history as a member of parliament. So new to municipal politics, but not new to politics. Yeah. I think the only true outsider that made a dent was Omar Mohammed, who is a pediatric dentist. Right. And he sold his practice. He ran for mayor. And look, we'll be honest, he's unlikely to win tonight. It's a tough uphill climb, but I was really impressed with his campaign and how much he managed to really get voters that really resonated with his message. And in an election that's about change, he was running on change. So there was some honesty there, which I appreciated.
And I think in some of, the poll, not the polls, but just before people went to vote, I think he was in the top 5 as far as interest from people. So he certainly, held his own, I think.
Yeah, above Tony Caterina, who is a multi-term councillor.
Seasoned vet,
it's that was very surprising to a lot of people.
Yeah. Emmanuel, how about you?
Well, I would say that in the category of the return boys,
who've been on council,
right? Michael Walters, Tony Caterina. I think they had a few things going for them. I think they had a better chance of positioning themselves as change candidates because they were away for 4 years. Right. But you have the 2 front runners who are just, getting out of this council,
right?
And it's really interesting to see that they are the front runners. And when you look at Michael Walters, for example, why was he not so appealing as a change candidate? Is it people just don't remember him? Right. And I draw a parallel with Michael Walters to Kim Crushell and Michael Autry.
Last time
taking breaks and wanting to make that comeback, and it didn't work out for both of them. So I think Michael, unfortunately, the polls are not showing that he's that change candidate that people want or that people will go for. Just considering that the 2 front runners are Tim and Andrew Knack.
And Andrew. Annika, what do you think? Do you think Michael maybe is too similar to one of the other top candidates?
Oh, I don't know. It was interesting kind of polling friends and seeing what their takes were. I would say I'm probably more engaged in a lot of this than some of the circles I run in, not in others for sure. Right. No one here probably has as much knowledge as Troy, but I'll give him that credit. But
as he works his phone and looks at his laptop,
as he's on
Return Boys, which will be the
name of the night. Save that one for a T-shirt.
I also was like, I think we need to do that. I just. It's interesting, I think not a lot has changed since Michael Walters was on council in terms of the general feel of council, in my opinion, obviously. But
Okay.
I also found it a bit fascinating how many people were running on change, and if you looked at their voting records, didn't necessarily
Reflect
match that exactly. And
Yeah.
I think it's kind of interesting how, as the electorate, we've somehow decided that being a councillor is kind of the prerequisite for mayor. But I've been talking to a lot of people in recent days about, what is the job of mayor? Is it a super counselor? Like, is it you're such a great counselor, you're going to be a good mayor?
Right.
Or is it a fully unique position that obviously there is some benefit to knowing the system and those connections and all those pieces? But what, if you were to ask any Edmontonian, what do you think the job of the mayor is? I would be curious to see if everyone has sort of the same idea in mind, because I do think the way that the return boys were talked about was largely about who they were as counselors.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I sometimes struggled, because I went, well, I don't, personally, I'm not looking for like a really good counselor to be mayor. I want a mayor.
Right.
So I think that demonstrated leadership in other avenues was a little bit, it's just interesting to sort of calculate, how we've put most of our eggs in buckets of folks who've served on council, but like, how are we actually referring to that experience? Are we actually looking at their voting history? Is it that we want their council? Is it, how we assess their skill as a counselor? Like what are those pieces? I don't have an answer. That's probably your follow-up. So Annika, what do you think the answer is? But yeah, I don't know. I thought it was interesting. Michael Walters, I think specifically, there were a lot of people who felt, I think he's a good talker. I think he's got Riz.
Yeah,
I'm told it's not
Riz,
Riz
the
anymore.
kids-
It's the Aura Points, I think.
Yeah. Do you want to
Maybe?
explain what Riz is in case some people are watching and they might?
It's an abbreviation for charisma, is
Charisma,
my
that's right.
understanding.
Yeah. That's what how my kids
Yeah,
explained it to me.
I know there's a whole 2 generations cringing that I said that right now, but I feel like he did have that on his side. But I think that folks are tempted to place everything political on a spectrum.
Right.
And I actually think the interesting thing about him was people didn't really know where to place him. I could talk to 5 different groups and they would have put him in 5 different spots.
Right.
And so when people start comparing their values to how they connect to other layers of government and where they traditionally vote, inevitably, just because that's, I think, what we do humanly with politics, I think they had trouble placing him. And I wonder if that contributed to some of the uncertainty, because I think he started strong. And then I think some people were like unsure. Is he coming up the middle? Is he more left than Andrew Knack? He's kind of marketing himself. Like, I think that's where some of the disconnect might have come in.
Yeah. Well,
Anecdotally.
we're certainly going to find out at some point here. So we will keep an eye on that. Thank you for the first round of questions and weighing in. Appreciate that. There's also one other person in the studio with us tonight, and that is, of course, our colleague, Janet French. Janet, welcome.
Hi there.
So you were keeping an eye on results. That's a lot to put on you, because we don't know when those results are going to roll in. You also have all of the data. So tell us a little bit about maybe eventually what that means. But remind us first why the province has required municipalities to hand count these ballots. I think I must have tried to answer that question a dozen times within the
doubt.
last week alone.
Right. So last year, the province passed several key pieces of legislation concerning municipalities. Among one of the most controversial was Bill 20, which made many changes to how municipal elections would run. And that bill prohibited the use of voting tabulator machines in municipal elections. So every municipality will be counting by hand. Now, the city of Edmonton had been using this electronic tabulation equipment for more than 20 years. So this was a big adjustment and an expensive adjustment. This came about after pressure from United Conservative Party members. Some of them don't trust voting machines. And so they worried about tampering, they worried about interference. And what Premier Danielle Smith and the former Municipal Affairs Minister said at the time was, even if a small segment of the population does not trust the voting machines, then we don't want to give them any reason to question the integrity of these elections. So, for whatever their reason is. So they wanted to address that by making sure that people felt confident the results were fair and accurate. So this change resulted in Elections Edmonton needing 4 times the number of ballot boxes they previously used. They needed to hire 1,200 more election workers than in the last election, and they needed to rent more space. Bill 20 also requires municipalities to create a permanent electors register in partnership with Elections Alberta using their provincial register. So according to Elections Edmonton, every voter had to complete a statement of eligibility when they arrived at the polling station today.
Right.
So if you're wondering why you're filling out the forms, that's why. And if the person wasn't already on the permanent elections register, a polling station worker had to enter them into a database. So I think maybe that's what was taking some of that time, people entering that data before they could get those ballots. This could have been responsible for some of those slow-moving lines today. And my colleagues even found one couple who brought their own folding chairs to a polling station.
because
they
they
saw that
figured.
line outside and thought,
Yeah, they must have seen it.
I want to sit.
So we likely will have to wait for some of these polling stations in Edmonton, but from what I understand, you have some returns from a certain city.
Leduc County.
Yeah.
Shout out to Leduc County, which is the first
On the ball.
first municipality in the kind of greater Edmonton area I could find that has any results.
They were posted online?
They're posted online in a
Okay.
spreadsheet in a Google document. So we have four polls reporting already from Division 3 of Leduc County, and the incumbent Dal Virdi is leading there with 329 votes over Dennis Prudius, who has 144 votes, and Ikwinder Brar is in third place there. We've got a few more votes trickling in and a few more divisions there, but that is the one that has the most votes counted so far. As far as Edmonton, St. Albert, Sherwood Park, Strathcona County, we've got kind of big zeros there so far.
Nothing so far. Okay.
No.
I know I've asked the panelists, about their thoughts on some of the different candidates. What are you looking for in this election, or what have you been kind of keeping your eye on?
Well, primarily, I think turnout will be a huge one, right? Municipal election turnout is not generally robust, to be polite about it. Yeah, I'm
Right.
sure you've
We already
been there.
talked about the advanced
yeah.
voting, right?
Yeah. So although advanced voting was over 5 days, not 10, so it's a bit of a different, a little bit apples and oranges there. But yeah, so turnout, engagement, and then what people always complain that election results don't come quickly enough.
Right.
But now we're kind of turning back the clock to 1990s, early 2000s. So how does that affect when we see what we see? Will we even know anything about school trustees tonight? They're counting those ballots last.
There's that as well. Yeah, Troy, I
Yeah.
mean, Troy and I were trying to think of how far back. I said maybe we have to go back to the 80s when this happened last, but
They say 20 years.
20
so that would
years.
have been the last.
okay.
I'd have to add up 5 elections in Edmonton. Yeah.
Yeah, it would. I mean, it would be taking us back to 2005. Okay, Janet, thank you for weighing in on some of that. So you will be coming in and out. I know you have a computer to go look at and try and see if any of these polls come in. So we will be waiting for you to return with hopefully some data, because I teased everybody that you would have the data tonight. So no pressure, right?
No pressure.
Okay,
No,
excellent.
All good.
You, of course, are, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to a CBC Edmonton Municipal Election Special. I'm in Dhariwal, joined by my colleague Janet French, as well as 3 panelists. We will get back to the panelists in a minute. We also have a number of reporters out in the field who are at a number of different campaigns. One of those reporters is with Tim Cartmel's group at the moment. He is, of course, waiting, hopefully, to be named mayor of Edmonton. I'm sure him and his supporters are hoping for that. Reporter Natasha Reeb is at the watch party. Natasha, hi, can you hear me?
Hi, I can, Min.
Okay, so tell us where this watch party is happening. We can certainly hear people in the background. So what's it like there? Where are you?
Well, it's very vibrant and lively here tonight at the JW Marriott. People are coming out to support Tim Cartmel, not only to be the next mayor of Edmonton, but also for the whole party. It's called Better Edmonton. It's the only party, well, one of 2, and it's the only party to have candidates in each of the city's 12 ridings. And one of them is joining us here now, Mike Elliott. He's a former Edmonton Police Association president, and he's also running in the ward Pahesawin. So, Mike, tell us, how did the campaign go for you?
For myself, I think the campaign went very well. What I really enjoyed about the campaign is getting to know the citizens in the different areas and getting to know their perspectives and their issues, because south of Pahesawin is a little different than north side of Pahesawin. So I really enjoyed getting different perspectives and different attitudes of what our issues really are.
What made you want to join the Better Edmonton Party?
Well, when Tim approached me, so to let you know, like through my association days, I want to build relationships with people on city council. And one of those was Tim Cartmel. So Tim approached me and he said, Mike, I want to create a team, and I want to have a team that have skill sets to make it Edmonton better. So he said, Mike, with your governance and your public safety experience, I want to bring you together so we can create a better Edmonton. So that's essentially why we came together.
What are some of the biggest issues you were hearing as you were door knocking and talking to people during this campaign?
I think there's been twofold. One is public safety, and that's right across the city. So the issues of everything from something as speeding to crime and disorder to the concerns about homeless and drug use, right? So that's one aspect. But the other aspect too that I've noted is that property taxes and the way it's gone up over the past couple of years. People find it's unsustainable, and how can people on a fixed income working or the next generation is coming, how can we afford that? So that's sort of two main concerns that have been brought to my attention and two issues that I believe I can make a real difference here at the City Council.
What's one thing that you've all discussed in this new party that will help improve safety in neighborhoods?
Well, I'm going to say collaboration. And one thing I'll bring this part up is that I believe, from my perspective, the past relationships with City Council and the Edmonton Police Service and the Edmonton Police Commission has not been as good as it should be. And one thing that I wanted to do, and with our team, is that improve those relationships, because we need the relationships with the police service, we need a relationship with the provincial government, we also need a relationship with the federal government, because to deal with the issues that we have on our streets, from homeless issues to crime, poverty, it takes a holistic approach, and it's going to take a team effort to actually address this. So the relationship between all levels of government is really what we need here today.
Okay, well, thanks so much for joining us tonight, Mike.
I appreciate your time as well.
Okay, thank you. Good luck. Tim Cartmel has some solid name recognition. He's a two-term city councillor. He was first elected in 2017 and most recently represented the ward that Mike Elliott is running in, Ward Paheswin. And he is an engineer by profession. So during council and committee meetings, he brought a lot of pragmatic questions to the table, questioned how the city was managing big infrastructure projects. And that's one thing he wants to do better. He wants to manage projects better, but also invest in service levels. So maintaining infrastructure we already have, roads, sidewalks, that kind of thing. And he says, but basically the city can't afford to invest in other big projects like arenas and rec centers because it's just too much tax. So he also campaigned on more responsible infill and more responsible bike lane infrastructure. So that, despite there have been bumps during the campaign, but despite that, many people here supporting Tim Cartmel tonight in hopes that he will be the next mayor of Edmonton.
Okay, Natasha, thank you for that. We will check back with you a little later on in the show. So that is Natasha Reeb. She is at the Tim Cartmel Watch Party, which is not too far from us here in the downtown Ice District. We will let you know as soon as maybe she hears about results potentially right at Tim Cartmel's campaign headquarters. So we will check in with her a little later on here this half hour. Now let's get back to our panel here at CBC. And if you are just happening to tune in, our panel consists of Emmanuel Ona, Troy Pavlik, and Anika Zepp. Anika Zepp is the former co-chair of Edmonton's Next Gen panel. Emmanuel Ona is the director of community initiatives at REACH, Edmonton Council for Safe Communities, and Troy Pavlik is a local blogger and podcaster. So Troy, let me ask you, this is the first time that we have seen parties at the municipal level that the councillors or the candidates aligning with a mayoral candidate. How do you think that has changed the campaigns, and how did that introduction shift maybe campaign values and platforms that are aligned? And as well, the financing, does that allow you to, quote unquote, buy an election? Because we saw how much money came in with Cartmel and this group. And I don't know if that's something we've seen in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, do you have 45 minutes for my sermon on this? I think
quite.
The big way that parties really changed the story here is they took all the oxygen out of the room, right? So we haven't had parties before, and Tim Cartmel launched early with his Better Edmonton party. He ran a candidate in every ward, and he has a lot of money and financing. And that gives him a lot of power for if someone is thinking about declaring an award, well, am I going to go up against a Better Edmonton candidate?
Right.
The practical result we got of this is they're basically the left-leaning incumbents are running. Not a single person is challenging them from the left or even center right. And then you have Tim Cartmel's party, some of which, have ideological spectrum,
Yeah.
but then a bunch of candidates coming at the right. What you get is, in every ward, basically an exceptionally large vote split, coupled with extremely low voter turnout. I think the effect of this party will be that most party candidates are going to lose and most incumbents are going to handily re-win their seats. We're seeing a lot of similar things down in Calgary too, with like the Calgary party and some of the other parties down there not really getting the traction that one would have thought the spend and the enhanced visibility might have gotten them. And I think that what that comes down to is just the UCP is not exceptionally popular in Edmonton's big cities, and this party system was opposed by 75% of Albertans.
Right.
It was forced onto these two cities, and only these two cities. Rural municipalities don't have parties.
that, yeah.
And I think a vote against a party can be seen as a vote against the UCP for a lot of people, and that's what I've been hearing on the doors. And so it's a little bit of a referendum on Danielle Smith that we're seeing at the municipal level. And unfortunate for the people who are running with parties because Danielle Smith is not exceedingly popular in Edmonton.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Emmanuel, what have you heard about this party system at the municipal level?
So I've talked to a few volunteers in different campaigns across the city who have gone to doors, and it's been the same question on the doors apparently once they knock. Is your candidate associated with the party? And if it's a yes, the doors get shut. If it's a no, then they're open to more conversation. So I think, like Troy said, it is a bit of a referendum. I think on the ballot today, was the question of municipal independence. Can municipalities, function and operate without influence from a higher level government?
Right.
So that's one question that's on the table. But when it comes to political parties in the city of Edmonton, I think one thing that we've also seen, and like Troy said, taking the air out of the room, there's this air war where they've got so much money and they're bombarding the entire airwaves with ads and, sharing all their information across the city,
Right.
On all social media. However, it's not translating to popularity. It's going the other way.
It's a good point. yeah.
Right? And so you have this air war versus the ground war, which is people like Andrew Knack, people like Omar Mohammed, who are then, raising this, doing a lot more grassroots community-based approach, where their popularity seems to be going higher, and you're not seeing there's a huge difference in spend between Better Edmonton, for example, and some of these other candidates. And so what I guess the big question then becomes: did we really need political parties in Edmonton, for example? And if we needed it, and with all this money being spent, is it translating to the votes that they expected? And
Yeah.
I don't think that's I don't think at the end of the night we're gonna get a positive answer to that question.
Annika, we see that the Better Edmonton candidates aligning with Tim. The PACE candidates don't have that, right?
Like a leader.
A leader, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So what do you make of the partisan politics and this, huge amount of money, in some cases 20 times as much as some other candidates that are running?
Yeah. I'm in my head, I'm like, is this where it gets spicy? I hate it a lot less than these two guys.
Well, don't save the spice. Yeah. Dole it out.
Look, I mean, whoever's going to get elected tonight, so many of us are going to have to work with whoever that is. So I went, I voted, I selected people that I thought were great for the job, and if they don't get in, then I'm happy to work wherever. I think the interesting thing about the results, and I mean, I think it's a good postmortem or premortem or whatnot to analyze whether the party system generates a win for all of that money or not. But I kind of think that's up to the candidates to determine. Was it worth it? That's not our job. I mean, if what happens if Tim wins and none of his team members win? What happens if a bunch of them win and he doesn't win?
Right.
I think if it had been brought in in a way where everybody had to be part of a political party. And those political parties were very tied provincially, where they were explicitly not. I think I might have had some different like visceral feelings about it. I think I was like, well, I mean, I guess we'll see if it works. And it's not, you know, the voter here has the power as the decision maker. We have the votes. Like, we were able to, you know, cast our ballot that way. And was it worth it? Could I have done it differently or better had I been independent is going to be up to Tim Cartmell and the team of Better Edmonton and Pace. And I think there's a few more. There's 3 teams in Calgary, right? Is it?
We're an Edmonton show.
I know, yeah. I just, the point really being that I think perhaps it was like slightly more uptake there.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure. I guess I continue to be a little bit, I understand the closeness to the electorate in municipal politics and the value of that independence there and the perception, and that's for a voter to decide, right? Whether that matters to them or not. I also spoke to a lot of people who were like, who's my Better Edmonton candidate? Like this is really easy for me because I have seen all of this messaging and heard these ads, and they haven't annoyed me. They've inspired me.
Right.
And
they've connected with it. Yeah.
Who do I vote for here? And you know, I noticed on the ballot, like, okay, so it says Better Edmonton, it says Pace. Like, there are voters for whom that's like extremely helpful to be able to see that alignment. So I don't know. I mean, I do think that there is a perception from one side of the spectrum that this is a referendum on the premier. I hope that people are voting for what they want. I hope that people want an awesome Edmonton. I'm a Calgary transplant. Like,
Yeah.
I need to justify living in the city.
Right.
To all of my friends I was born and raised with in Calgary, I want the best for it, I promise.
Yeah.
And that's all I really want at the end of the day. And so it would be unfortunate if the sole reason motivating a vote was to be in opposition of our provincial leader at this point in time. I think that is challenging when we look at the amount of things that impact the everyday lives of Edmontonians.
Okay, excellent. Thank you
Yeah.
all for that. I know we heard Natasha talking to Mike Elliott, the candidate, about his thoughts on realigning or collaborating with the Edmonton Police Service. I want to get your thoughts on that, but I saw Janet just walk in here to our left, and of course she is keeping an eye on polls coming in. It sounds like you have some news on that front.
Well, I have something. It's
Okay.
not from the city of Edmonton, but we do have something to talk about. Fort Saskatchewan. So the outgoing mayor, Gail Catcher, she retired after 15 years there. So we have some preliminary mayoral results. Lisa Mackin is leading Jibs Abitoy there.
Okay.
They've only counted 2,000 votes so far, so unclear if that doesn't say how many polls are reporting. And they've got some council votes starting to roll in there as well. They're going to elect 6 councillors from a pool. Leading that pool so far are Alan Wesley, Gordon Harris, and Gail Catcher. Look at that. And also, we have some results from Jasper. I just wanted to mention that the mayor of Jasper, of course, he was catapulted to probably national fame during the
maybe even
wildfires of
maybe even
2024
global.
and
Yeah.
beyond, right?
Absolutely.
He's been the mayor since 2001, since Jasper became a municipality, and he remains the mayor because he was unchallenged this time. But they are voting for councillors in Jasper, so do have a few results there. They also, rather than having a ward system, do elect from a pool. There's 17 people running for seats there, and so far leading, we've got Kathleen Waxer, Lori Roger, Ralph Melnick, Cable Kongsrud, Wendy Hall, and Danny Frechette.
Okay. You were also able to maybe walk us through how the votes are going to be counted here in
Yeah.
Edmonton. I know there were some videos from the city that a lot of us got a chance to look at and see the process. What can you tell us about that on that front?
That's
compared
right.
to what we're already seeing in some of the other municipalities surrounding Edmonton, where some numbers are coming in.
Yeah, so I guess it's important to consider the distinction between 2021, if you voted in the last municipal election, and this time.
Right.
In 2021, you would have just got one big sheet where you penciled in your choices and it would have been fed into a machine. This time you were handed 3 different ballots, right? And so each of those ballots goes into a different box if you're at the voting station. And so because workers are hand counting, what the city says is that they're going to count the mayoral ones first.
Okay.
Then they're going to move on to counselors and then move on to school trustees, which is why I mentioned earlier, maybe, depends how counting goes. We'll have to see whether we see any school trustee results tonight, or even counselor results tonight, depending on how it goes. They're also counting at multiple locations. So counting is taking place both at the voting stations where you voted, and also at a central count center. And at that central center is where, that's if you voted in advance polls or by special ballot, that's where your ballots would have gone there. Returning Officer Aileen Giesbrecht says her goal is to have the votes that were cast at voting stations, have those tallied by midnight tonight. And then counting will stop everywhere at midnight, and then it will resume tomorrow at 9 a.m. And so they're hoping to have preliminary results for all races by some point tomorrow. And then legislation requires them to have those results finalized by Friday.
By Friday, okay. I was hoping, I was being, optimistic that maybe having 1,200 extra people hired to help out in this process would maybe speed things up, but maybe it's just the sheer number of ballots they're going to have to count by hand.
We're going to have to
is
wait
why.
and see.
Okay,
Yeah.
Janet, thank you for bringing that to us. We will check back with you a little later on here this evening. That is Janet French. We, of course, have reporters throughout the city this evening, and one of them is Travis McEwen. He is at the campaign office, or the party, I guess, for Andrew Knack. Travis, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you, man. How are you doing?
I'm good. So tell us where we found you.
I'm actually at Epic Market. You can actually see behind me in the glass down that way. That's actually Gateway Boulevard and White Avenue, right in the heart of the city here. And this is going to be the podium where Andrew Knack is expected to speak at one point. We don't know what the context of that's going to be. Now, Knack's been, it's been 12 years now, 3 terms since he's been a councillor for the city. He's been the councillor for Nakota Iska. And, I was at the announcement this year when he decided that he wasn't going to run anymore. He did a big announcement. He was very emotional, but he also said it was time for a new perspective, to bring someone else in. And he really mulled things over for a while. And then all of a sudden, I think months later, he said he was mulling over, maybe running. People were putting pressure on him for him to run in this race. He's actually just popped in over here somewhere now. We're going to move around the room here. But, the thing was, it was back in May when he finally said, I'm going to run. I'm going to try to be the next mayor of the city. Let's keep going through here. We'll go through the crowd, excuse me. And, he's running a campaign, essentially running as the progressive candidate on the list right here on this ballot. And he's been very open about his plan for homelessness, his plans for public safety, affordability, and also making sure that neighborhoods in the city, the new ones, are having the services they need, like fire halls, police stations, and on top of that, really renewing the mature neighborhoods as well. And so, he's got a lot of supporters here tonight. This room's starting to fill up as we're coming here. He just showed up about 10 minutes ago as well. And to be honest, as I've known Andrew Knack, he's a councillor who is hardworking. He's a bit of a policy nerd, stays up late. He's reading reports. He's always a guy to go to that knows a lot about the issues in Edmonton and what's going on around the city as well. So, and I've got one guest here I want to introduce you to.
Okay.
His name is Michael Fair. He's a former councillor. You might know him. Michael, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing just fine, thank you. A little nervous, waiting.
So, Michael, you're here as a supporter and also someone who's been involved in Andrew Knack's campaign.
Yes, I've done a little work with him, yeah.
Why did you want to support him?
Well, I've known Andrew since the time he first went on council, which is quite some years ago now. And I must say, one of the things that impressed me is how he grew into the position and how well he has become in working and talking to people, both on council but also the general public. And he's never been nasty to anyone. I mean, he thinks, he works hard, he listens. I may not always agree with you, but he's just a really good person.
As someone who's been a councillor for the city, what do you think Edmonton needs in a mayor right now?
Well, I think somebody that's steady and knows what they want and works hard at it and doesn't have to be showy about it, but they just get it done. And I think that's Andrew. He knows how to get things done. He doesn't need to, be out front on everything and jump up and down and, and screaming that, but he gets the work done, and that's what I think people want.
If he's elected mayor, what do you think his priority is going to be?
Oh, with a growing city Edmonton is, I think the priorities are huge, and I think we hear certain things in the central area. I think in the suburban or the surrounding area of the city, the newer areas, people talk about arenas and playgrounds for children and all of those kinds of things. So I think it's varied where that will be, and I think it's a matter of ensuring that we have the kind of things that people see as being important as part of the city. They want to live here.
And thanks, Michael. And when Andrew Knack said he wasn't going to be a councillor anymore, he actually said that it's a very busy job. You don't really have a life as a councillor. But now tonight we're going to find out if he's going to have more time on his hands or this will continue as the city's mayor.
Okay, Travis, thank you for that. That's Travis McEwen at the watch party for Andrew Knack. We heard former councillor Michael Fair there. What do you guys make of Andrew's reputation in his old riding, because it certainly has been in the news quite a bit, right? Nakota Iska, the talk about infill. Andrew's been involved in a lot of those decisions, and Annika, you're kind of grinning a little bit. So, even spending time in that riding, a lot of people didn't have a lot of positive things to say about him.
Yeah, I'm in the ward.
Okay.
I'm in the ward. I'm in infill central. Yeah, you know what? I know that there are the word is diverse, so that's also an important note.
It is.
I forget who was mentioning it, but saying one part of the word was very different than the other, and I think that's very true in Nakota Iska as well. But you have Glenora, Crestwood, Grosvenor, those Facebook pages. I mean, if you could keep up with all the rezoning
On
pictures,
fire,
my
right?
goodness. But so I think that ideologically, I do think in my smaller bubble, there might be some, as you mentioned, perhaps folks aren't on board with things that he said. I will say though, I will never, ever, ever criticize that man's work ethic. I don't think that there is, he works so hard. We moved into the ward, our neighbors had concerns over a multifamily that was being built, and he was in our backyard meeting with our neighbors within a week. So ideologically, was he compelled to completely stop an already in progress build? No, as he couldn't. But I do think that accessibility is, and that relatability is really one of his strong suits.
Right.
I think many people who've met Andrew, he remembers you the second time he meets you. There is no, remember this, that, and the other. He remembers you, he cares. Politics aside, I do think he's a good human. I don't know if other folks in the ward have worked with him as closely as I have. He was our sponsor counselor on Edmonton's Next Gen for a number of years where I was there, so I worked with him closely there as well. But we'll see. Raja, who's running in the ward, is his former staffer pretty notoriously as well. So
As well as
jury's out.
He also has Reed Clark in there.
Yep.
A number of others, Diana Steele. Emmanuel, what do you make of when Andrew made that announcement? I think he was in the studio actually when he announced that he was going to be done as a councillor. Wasn't sure if he was going to run for mayor. But do you think people kind of started giving him a call and maybe trying to get him to change his mind and to at least look at potentially running for mayor? Did you think he had the chops to go after that job?
Well, I think Andrew is incredibly experienced, and looking at the current council, he's the longest on council out of all of them. So I'd say incredibly experienced, and also has been in Edmonton long enough to understand a lot of issues that that people have been going through. Now, when it comes to his decision to run for mayor, obviously he was getting a lot of calls, like he said, that he was basically asked or called on to take that mantle or to take that journey. Mm-hmm. But when you look at some of the issues like infill, for example, big issue across the city. One thing I like about Andrew, and I think one thing that probably a lot of people have seen with him, is his ability to tell it like it is, not wanting to sugarcoat or propose any solution that might be far-fetched but telling it like it is, and bracing you for that pain that you might need to go through to get on the other to get out on the other side better. I think that's something that he's really known for, is just telling it like it is and proposing a practical solution to get it done, but not selling you something that he wouldn't be able to live up to. I think like you mentioned, just really hard worker, someone who's really connected to the community.
Okay. Troy, he comes from a riding where they're dealing with tons of construction. I mean, they've got the LRT going through there. They're dealing with a lot of safety issues with people maybe coming from the core, unhoused people that are in the ravine or coming into the neighborhoods. Of course, the situation with infill, maybe it isn't quite as an issue outside of that riding and other ridings, but in Nakota Isga, it seems like that is what people want to know from all of the candidates running right now for the current council. What are you going to do about it? And are you willing to change it? What do you suppose, with Andrew not running for council now, but some of those issues maybe hanging on to him? Do you think he carries that with him as he runs for council or as he runs for mayor?
I think anyone who runs for public office has to own their past decisions. It's a disadvantage of being an incumbent, but as we all know, the advantages of being an incumbent far outweigh any of the disadvantages. Incumbency is very powerful. And Andrew, as everyone has mentioned, makes a good impression. If you send him a horrible message on Facebook, he'll say, "Thanks for the comment. Can we talk further?" He engages to a fault, and that's earned him a lot of friends. It's really hard to dislike the guy. And, some people tried their darndest, but it's really difficult to pull off. And I think one of the things that really gets misconstrued is, like Annika mentioned, Nakota Isga is a very diverse ward, right? Sure, you have Glenora with Carruthers Caveat, where it is illegal to build multi-unit developments. There's restrictive covenants on titles. You can't tear down a single-family house and build infills on those lots. So naturally, those areas have pretty staunch opposition to multifamily development. But outside of the Henday, you have a single-family house next to an apartment building, and that's just how it is. Infill is not a particular issue in those neighborhoods because they're all new, right? You can't redevelop a neighborhood.
West,
that's already been developed. I think you're right. Construction is something that is frustrating people in the West. But on the other hand, the largest population center, or the largest employment center in the city of Edmonton, West Edmonton Mall, is finally getting train service 50 years after it should have gotten train service. I think a lot of people are seeing that as a win. Are they frustrated with the construction? Yeah. But Andrew Knack is the guy who got Lewis Farms Rec Center done. He got West LRT done. And a lot of people in the neighborhood remember him for that.
Before, when we were talking with Travis, before that, we heard from candidate Mike Elliott. He was talking about the importance of whoever gets on council to collaborate with Edmonton Police Service. I know that relationship hasn't been as good as it maybe potentially could be. Emmanuel, what do you think? How can that relationship maybe shift with this new council, and how important is it for this new council and the police service under a new chief to have some harmony here?
Incredibly important. I mean, we've seen over the last few years where that relationship wasn't the best, and obviously the impact on community safety and well-being across the city. So I think it's incredibly important for that relationship to work. We have a new chief now, who I've met. I've had conversations with him, and he seems to be a really community guy. So at least I'm impressed with that. I'm looking forward to seeing his vision for the police. But with council coming in, my hope is that relationship translates to a bigger vision for Edmonton, a bit, better investment, not only in policing and enforcement, but also in the social services that support policing to ensure that we have a more sustainable community safety across the city. And so, I'm looking forward to what that relationship looks like.
Min, I hate to interject, but we do have the most important results tonight. The Blue Jays have won and 4-3 in Game 7. So
incredible.
You can go home. You can stop listening now. You have all the news you need.
Well, now we can focus completely on the election. Okay, that's great. Great for the Blue Jays. Great for Canadian baseball for sure. That will be celebrated tonight. Thanks for that, Emmanuel. Troy and Anika, I would like to get your thoughts on that as well. But of course, Janet has walked in, so when she walks in, she has some important information for us. Janet, let's talk about the teacher strike. Of course, that has been. We're into week. This is the start of week 3?
This is the start of week 3. That's
incredible.
right.
Start of week 3.
So it's been a minute.
Tell us what kind of interest we've seen in the school trustees that are getting maybe elected here tonight.
Well, yeah. Historically, turnout for school trustee elections has not been huge. Engagement, not huge. Participation, not necessarily huge. First of all, the pool of eligible voters is divided, right? You can only vote for either a public trustee or a Catholic trustee or a francophone trustee.
Fair point, yeah.
Yeah, so it's even hard to calculate the turnout for trustee elections. And actually, even at my polling station today, the clerk asked me if I wanted all 3 ballots. Did I want to vote for trustee? I was like, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I do. But it I guess she said some people who don't have kids in school, they don't feel engaged in those elections. But that is not a requirement to vote for school trustee. Any registered elector can. So just thinking of the teacher strike and now lockout, many people started their trustee campaigns before the teachers went on strike on October 6th.
Right.
So that may have been a bit of a surprising twist for these elections, but some candidates you've seen really lean into it and have been going out to some of the rallies, going out to some of the walks, and using it as an opportunity to campaign. But it can be tough to get folks generally interested in what's going on with school board. If you look at the last municipal election across Alberta, almost half of school trustee positions across the province, there were more than 400, were acclaimed. And a
Okay.
handful of seats, nobody even ran for those seats at all. So this time looking at the Edmonton Public School Board,
Right.
we're going to see a lot of turnover. At least 5 new faces of the 9 trustees. 3 of those seats were already vacant because of resignations, and only 4 incumbents are running again. And an interesting element to the public school board race in Edmonton this time is that some of the parents who had been regularly advocating for their kids who have disabilities or special needs, they're now running for trustee. So it could be if they get
They're now
elected,
running.
They're now running for trustee.
Oh, wow.
They could be an interesting dynamic on that school board.
Okay.
And the Catholic school board, the last election, 2021, only 1 of the 7 seats was contested. 6 trustees were acclaimed.
They went right
Talking
through.
about that lack of engagement.
Yeah.
This time, a little more lively. We have 6 seats contested. Aline Mutala in Ward 75, that's Central Edmonton, she was acclaimed. And there's a couple of long-running characters who are trying to get back on the school board. One of them is Debbie Engel. She has been on the Edmonton Catholic School Board for 27 years.
Oh, wow. That's
She's running for a 9th term. Yeah,
that is a long time.
it is a long time. And
Going
Laura
back to the
Tibbert,
90s.
yeah, Laura
Yeah.
Tibbert was first elected 15 years ago. She's also served as chair. She's running for a 5th term on the board.
Okay. All right. Well, it'll be interesting to see how those races turn
Yeah.
out.
Now, do you want some results from not quite Edmonton, but close?
Well, whatever results you have, we'll take
Yeah,
them.
I know.
Yeah.
You're desperation.
We're starving for results here. Yeah.
Strathcona County.
Okay, yeah, to the
Basically
east here.
embedded in the east of Edmonton, right?
Yeah.
So close. Okay, so Rod Frank, he has been the mayor of Strathcona County since 2017. He is leading. There are 2 of 41 polling stations reporting there. He's leading with 62.75% of the vote. And Benjamin Beal is the only other contender. He's got 37% of the vote.
Okay.
And we do have a couple of school board results from Elk Island Public School Board that overlaps with Strathcona County. We've got Jessica Boyden leading in electoral subdivision number 3 in Elk Island Public School Division. Just toggling between screens here. And in Elk Island Catholic Schools, we have, there's going to be 4 folks elected in Ward 1 of that Catholic School Board east of Edmonton.
Okay.
And we've got just 2 polls reporting still. Leanne Iwascu is leading there, along with Dean Sarnecki, Brad Koshka, and Don Marceau.
Okay.
And I believe they have Fort Saskatchewan results as well. They do, but they've only got 2 votes counted, so I'm not even going there.
Okay.
I'm not even going there.
2 votes?
2 votes.
Like 2 singular
no,
votes?
2 polls. 2
not
votes.
Not 2 polls.
Too soon. Too
Well,
soon.
I guess
Okay.
baby steps. This is
Baby
It's
steps,
been a while
yeah.
since we've done it this way. So.
That's right,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, thank you for bringing us those results. Good news. We are going to extend till 10:30, so we may, hopefully, fingers crossed, get some results from polls in Edmonton. I'm not holding my breath, but you never know, right? Give it an extra 35 minutes.
reporting so far.
0.0%. Yeah,
0.0%.
that's
very
not
precise.
That's not a great outlook, but hopefully that will improve. We are coming up to the top of the clock. We have a panel here in our studio where we have been discussing at length a number of different topics. Maybe quickly before we get to the news at the top of the clock, tell me what you think. As far as maybe some of the races in some of the specific ridings when it comes to councillors. What you think is one of the more compelling races. Maybe it's where some of the mayoral candidates have vacated their seat.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, the most interesting race in the city right now is Edmonton Votes, which is a mouthful, but learnable. Jennifer Rice is the councillor there who many will remember from her term. She won by 39 votes in the last election, so very narrow margins.
Yeah.
And has had, I'll call it an embattled term on council. She had several codes of conduct complaints filed against her,
Right.
which were then dismissed by Danielle Smith and a whole snafu with
Mm-hmm.
dismissing codes of conduct. So she's a weak incumbent, I would call her. And you have 2 pretty strong competitors running, John Morgan, a longtime community advocate
Right.
who ran last time, and Funke Olukude, who is, if she wins, going to be the first Black woman to be elected to Edmonton City Council. Rhiannon Hoyle was a mere 39 votes away from doing that in the last election. So that's a race that I'm closely watching because it is one where whoever wins, I think, is going to win on a knife's edge.
Yeah. And you talk about those allegations, which it goes back a year and is not going to be dealt with until the new year, which is incredible. But that is a situation certainly in the South there for sure. Emmanuel, your thoughts on maybe one of the races in particular that you've been keeping a close eye on?
I feel like you're limiting me to one. I've got 5.
You've got 5.
I've got
Okay,
5
well,
that I'm watching.
Let's see if we can do it in 30 seconds or so.
Well, let's try that. So
Okay.
I'm watching Ward Métis.
Ward Métis,
actually,
okay.
Salvador, I think that for me is a bellwether riding in terms of infills, it being a significant issue.
Yeah.
So I want to see how that goes. Nakota Iska, obviously, in terms of where the mayoral race kind of lands. And Sispomitapi,
yes.
yes. That one for me is also something that I'm watching because the last time Kandola and Mobanga were on,
Right.
they were on the ballot.
Joanne Wright's
with
incumbent,
Joanne
yeah.
Wright, and so I'm going to see now that Mobanga is not there. Is there, would there be another split because the votes were pretty close?
Yeah.
And then obviously Tim Cartmel's old riding is one that I'm watching because we've got exactly, we've got some strong people in there who are running against each other. And then lastly for me, and this is more of a personal one, Ipikokoni Piotsi is Funke Olukude, who's running there, is from the Black community,
Right.
is a Nigerian Canadian, and so for me, potentially having the first Black woman in council is quite important.
That would be something, yeah.
And so that's something that I'm looking forward to.
Okay, Emmanuel, thank you for that. Anika, we will give you a chance after we do the news, and so you can keep that in mind and just lock it and load it. So we'll get back to you. I am in Dhariwal. You have been watching a CBC Edmonton Election Night special. The news is up next, and we will be back after that till the bottom of the clock.
This is CBC News. At 10 o'clock, you're listening to a special CBC Edmonton Election Night newscast. Good evening, I'm Sam Sampson. We have reporters in several communities across central and northern Alberta, including Travis McEwen here in Edmonton. He's at mayoral candidate Andrew Knack's campaign headquarters. Travis, what's going on there?
Well, Andrew Knack actually just walks through here, taking pictures with supporters, having chats with them. The excitement's been picking up since he's gotten here. And former councillor Michael Fair is here supporting. He's been a part of the campaign as well. Now, Knack's been running his campaign essentially as the progressive candidate in the mayoral race. His platform has a plan for homelessness, public safety, and a focus on population growth as well, renewing mature neighborhoods and looking at new neighborhoods and giving them the services they need, like police stations, fire halls. Now, Knack announced a year ago he wouldn't run again as councillor. He wanted to bring new blood in. He planned to step away, and then months later, he said, well, maybe he's mulling it over, and he could run for mayor. There's people that wanted him to. So here we are. We're now here where he's running for mayor. He has the chance. But the thing was, if you look back to when he spoke at that announcement, he said that as an elected official, you really don't have much time off. So now I guess we'll get to find out if that will continue or he'll get a much-deserved break. Reporting live, Travis McEwen, CBC News, Edmonton.
Thank you so much, Travis. Well, some Edmontonians were still lined up outside polling stations even after they closed at 8 p.m. Voters reported waiting more than an hour at places like McKernan School, Forest Heights Elementary School, and Suzuki Charter School in Capilano. This year, electors had to fill out a new eligibility form before voting. Ballots are also being hand counted since the province banned electronic tabulators last year. Linda Beaton waited at her polling station in Griesbach for nearly an hour and saw others leave before even getting the chance to vote.
I think it's unfortunate. I mean, they made the effort to start with to get here. Find out, number one, because nobody knew where to vote. I mean, there was an effort there to be made. And then they came out here, and then unfortunately, it was too much for them and they left.
Edmonton Elections says it will release unofficial results as they come in, and official results are required by Friday. Well, voters in Hinton are getting an extra ballot today, one that will decide the fate of their aging recreation centre. Maggie Kirk spoke with voters about the community's plebiscite.
I want to chuck my 2 cents in for the rec center, so I did that.
That's Travis Johnson. He says the rec center was a big reason he came out to vote today, but it sounds like he's hopeful no matter what the outcome is.
Whoever gets in is going to be great. This town is full of great people, and we're just lucky to be here. So.
Another Hinton resident said that this is his first time voting in a municipal election. Josh Steele says his property tax increased by $500 in just 1 year. He wants the next administration to be responsible with the budget. With potential upgrades to the rec center, he could be paying even more.
Either way, it's an old facility. It does need work, so either we can maintain it and keep repairing it for money, or we can upgrade it or just build a new one. It's a hard decision, but it's one that I'll endorse.
Election and plebiscite results are expected after midnight. Maggie Kirk, CBC News, Hinton.
Voters in Vermilion will decide on a new mayor this election. Linda Everest said she voted based on platforms and demographics.
I think we have to get new voices in there, younger people. You need younger people to balance out the older people and to learn. They need to learn to be volunteers and support the communities.
And in Red Deer, development was top of mind for Isaac Flamen, whose passion for local politics sustained his hour and 40-minute wait to cast a ballot.
I really care that we're making sure we're developing the land between the Bower Woods area that they want to develop. That matters to me a lot. And the candidate that I voted for is willing to step up and make it happen.
Others told CBC News reporters they voted with crime, homelessness, tax increases, and housing in mind. In Grand Prairie, voters say they are craving change. CBC's Catherine Garrett has more.
In the city's O'Brien Lake area, hundreds showing up to cast their ballots in the after-work rush before polls closed at 8. One issue is a resounding one.
Honestly, this year it's about taxes. Our land tax has gone up and we haven't really gotten much more for it.
Well, the property taxes, of course. Property taxes, accountability.
Many say they want a changing of the guard at City Hall.
I just want change in our community. I think there's a lot of people that need out of council.
I think the city needs some different council members.
Hopefully there's a good turnout and make a real change.
Ballots will be counted by hand tonight into the early hours, and the results will be announced Tuesday morning. Catherine Garrett, CBC News, Grand Prairie.
And that is your CBC News on Alberta's Municipal Election Day. Now, for updates and news anytime, go to cbc.ca/Edmonton or download the CBC News app. And I'll be here every hour to keep you updated right here on CBC Radio 1.
Good evening, I'm in Dhariwal, and this is a CBC Edmonton election night special. Polls closed now over 2 hours ago. We're hoping the longer that we stay here, we will eventually start getting some returns from those polls. So we have several of my colleagues who are keeping an eye on that, Janet French in particular. So we will be checking in with her throughout this half hour. We also have 3 members in our panel here this evening. We want to thank them for taking the time out to lean in and lend us some of their expertise on what we are seeing and what we have seen so far in this election race. Annika Zepp is to my right. She's the former co-chair of Edmonton's Next Gen Committee. Emmanuel Ona, who is in the middle, is the Director of Community Initiatives at Reach Edmonton Council for Safe Communities and the VP of Operations at African Canadian Civic Engagement Council. And to his right is Troy Pavlik, who is a local blogger and podcaster, and you've been busy on your phone, Troy. So let's get to you shortly about any potential information. But I want to start with Annika. Let's finish up on the last question before we went to news, and just some of the particular ridings that maybe caught your attention, and some races that you think might surprise us tonight or were very close.
Yeah, I mean, I think the 2 next to me listed quite a few of them. I would also have my eye on O'Damon. I think Anand Pai is pretty well respected and has a lot of folks that I think I may have assumed would have been pretty fond supporters of the incumbent. Seems to have really captured their hearts. So I'm excited to see what goes on there and everywhere else that was already listed. And I'm going to be that person that says I also just want to say thanks to all the councillors that aren't running again, right? Like, so we know one will be mayor, the other one will be done their service municipally, and Sarah Hamilton notably as well is stepping away.
Back, yeah.
So I think that, it's politics aside, no matter when you look at this, I think Nack's not lying when he says there's not a lot of time for yourself. So I think we should all be pretty grateful that whether we agree with folks or not, that they've
big sacrifice,
dedicated this big amount of years of their life to building a better city. So, I think regardless of what happens, I think that's also on my mind when you see that transition or whatnot. We have the one confirmed, of course, and the rest are kind of hanging in the balance. But you can't help but look in, the rear view a little bit.
And we had 81 candidates who were running in 12 different ridings, so I think that turnout is just a little bit more than what Calgary saw, but that certainly in some of those ridings gives people a lot of choice. We also are going to see a council and a mayor who is going to have to deal with the province. What do you think, Emmanuel, is who is going to be the best equipped to deal with the UCP party and Daniel Smith?
Well, I think anybody who steps up to me to be mayor, who eventually would win, should come with the mindset of wanting to work with the province and the feds. And I think whoever does win should make that concerted effort to make that relationship work, because in the end, the city is either the beneficiary or we're worse off for a lack of a relationship. So my hope is that whoever sits in that chair will foster the relationship. But I also just wanted to say that relationships are a two-way street. And so my hope is that as whoever that mayor is, extends their hand, that there's an extension from the other side as well to make it work.
Troy, what are your thoughts on that, and how vital is that relationship in securing funds in some cases, which the city does need, especially in the core here?
Kind of hot take here. Not really that important.
No.
So we hear a lot of candidates talk about it, but let's be honest about the relationship that the province has established with municipalities. We have the Minister of Municipal Affairs saying, if taxes are too high, we're going to lower them. If bike lanes are installed, we're going to uninstall them.
Right.
It's a very paternalistic relationship. We don't want that, obviously. No one around the table really wants that. But there's this sort of untold story here. If someone wins a mayoral race that is favorable to the provincial government, you might see something like Doug Ford, where the Ontario provincial government granted strong mayor powers to mayors in Ontario. That's not off the table. Daniel Smith has opined about that. You may find, if there's an unfriendly council to the UCP government, that the UCP takes a paternalistic approach to it. I think the idea that we need to work with the province Amarjeet Sohi is the most collaborative person I have ever met in my entire life. He goes into every meeting assuming the other side is acting in complete good faith and will ignore every aspect of past history. And he couldn't get a positive relationship with the province. If he can't do it, I don't think anyone is able to.
Yeah.
I hope we do have some things better. The one sort of like silver lining is there is a provincial election coming up. Typically, premiers want to, dole out a little bit of cash in advance of a provincial election. We might see more collaborative relationships from that political perspective, but I don't think it really matters who wins. I think they're all going to work with the government in their own way, and it'll work or it won't.
Okay. Annika, you said you're originally from Calgary, so you've seen how maybe council works there with the sitting premier. What's your take on how Edmonton's relationship has been with this one? And what the new council, potentially, and the new mayor, what kind of work they need to do to maybe strengthen it?
Yeah, I mean, they've got an arena underway, but I have been here for 17 years, and I am even an Oilers fan, so I know I mentioned it myself, but yes, anyway. My husband's at home being like, check. She pledged her true allegiance, but no, I think that there should be a collaborative relationship. I do think that it's come up a lot in this campaign trail, which has been a little bit interesting and a lot of, sort of that speculation as to do we want someone who's going to stand up for us or work with, and sort of the eternal cyclical debate as to which one of those will be more fruitful for Edmonton. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know if this is where I'd use it if I had one. But I do think that is somewhere, I previously spoke about like what is the role of a mayor, and I think that these, elements of collaboration, and whether that's, with police or with the province or the feds or other folks, I do think that is an important role for our mayor to play. I think of like that moment in Love Actually, I'm like really dating myself, where Hugh Grant gets all on his podium about, we've got David Beckham's right foot and David Beckham's left foot. And, I wonder, like, is that the effective method? Are we going to get any farther? Is the provincial mandate, is that written out already? Is there anything that we could really do? But I do think that, regardless of what happens, it will, I think, be an incumbent council member that's coming in as mayor. And I do hope that they approach it with a clean slate and a fresh perspective and a willingness to work together, because it's only going to be Edmontonians who suffer if that relationship doesn't go well, right? We want the best for our people, regardless of who's in power at whatever level.
Yeah, I think we've heard from most candidates who are running for mayor say that as well. So, Emmanuel, I know you want to weigh in. We will check in with you about that just after we first head to the south side, and that's where our colleague Michelle Bellefontaine is in Royal Gardens at Mimi's Pub, and that is, of course, where Michael Walters is holding his watch party, and he is a south side guy. Michelle, how's it going there?
Well, right now, Michael Walters is giving a speech to his sort of a small group of people, around 50 people that have been at this pub here just south of the White Mud, near Harry Ainley's school. Walters, of course, is a two-time city councillor. He was a city councillor from 2013 to 2021, and after 4 years away from council, he decided to throw his hat in the ring last summer to run. And of course, everybody here is waiting for results, and he's essentially told people. There you go. You can hear the cheers behind us. Very boisterous crowd. You can see the purple colors of Walter's campaign and the balloons and everything. But yeah, basically he said to his people, he said basically people are getting tired and they're waiting for results, and he has the sense that we're probably not going to hear much before, probably not well until closer to midnight, or if going into tomorrow.
Okay.
So basically, people are having a good time. We watch the Blue Jays,
Yes.
win the Game 7 and head off to the World Series. So yeah,
Okay.
overall, it's been a pretty cheerful crowd here.
Okay, excellent, Michelle. Thanks for checking in with us, and we'll see if we can get back to you here later on in this half hour. I wanted to come back, Emmanuel. You wanted to weigh in after Annika just talked about collaborating at the provincial level.
Yeah, I think there was an important point that I wanted to make on the relationship with the province, and that is when you look at the campaign and how the campaign has gone, even from all the way from Tim Cartmel downwards Andrew Knack, it's been a campaign of creating distance between them and Premier Smith.
Right.
So it kind of begs the question if during the campaign this distance is being created, obviously because of all of the complex issues, not only local issues but also provincial issues that have been happening. What does that look like if should either one of them be mayor? So, you know, like I said, I'm hoping that that relationship works. But when you have a campaign where everybody is distancing themselves, that's a big question.
I think strategically, as a candidate, you may have to do that considering what the voting history is of a city like Edmonton when it comes to the provincial election. So maybe that is a strategic move by those candidates. And once whoever gets in, that obviously will have to change if they want to collaborate with folks at the provincial level. Of course, Janet French has just entered the studio.
Hello.
How are you?
So expected.
So
we should call you the Oracle.
Well, you know, we're sitting here waiting for results. We don't have them. I don't have them, at least on my computer.
I
here,
am
but-
also sitting here waiting for results, but let
Okay.
me tell you about Parkland County.
Okay, let's do it. Yeah, let's
I know
let's
that's not
skirt
what you want.
around the city that we're in,
Or
but
just the donut min.
the
importance
donut. Yeah,
of the donut.
Hey, just
Okay.
pretend like you're on the Henday and you're just going counterclockwise, because I think that's kind of where we started. Leduc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hopping all around.
Can't
Maybe
wait till
like
we get
maybe
out
like
west.
a drone hopping from place to place.
Sure.
Okay, so mayor. So right now, Alan Gamble is the mayor of Parkland County. He is trailing his challenger. So with 10 of 24 polls reporting in Parkland County, Rod Shiagek is leading with 58% of the vote, and Alan, who's been mayor for one term, has 41.8% of the vote, getting close to 42% of the vote.
Okay.
And there are some final results now. When I say final, I mean they've counted them once, and they still have to do the official, official count.
Right.
But after an initial count in Jasper, they have finished counting those ballots, and they have chosen 6 councillors. Of course, I mentioned the mayor was acclaimed.
Right.
And so in Jasper, actually, a couple of incumbents are not coming back. So leading after that first count are incumbent Wendy Hall and Kathleen Waxer. And then coming new to council, Danny Frechette, Cable Kongsrud, Ralph Melnick, and Lori Roger.
Okay. So we're waiting for 6 more now.
No, that's
Oh,
all.
that's it. It's all 6. Okay.
Just 6.
Okay, 6 of them. Okay, fair
Table's
enough.
full, man. Don't get excited.
Okay, no problem, no problem. When you were here a little earlier, you talked about different ways that the province has kind of seized control over municipalities. What are some of the other ways that we're seeing that?
Well,
Or they're seeing it?
Yeah, as you talked about already, Bill 20 marked the introduction of political parties to the municipal scene in Alberta. Of course, Vancouver and Montreal has had this for a while. It was just as a pilot project in the cities of Edmonton and Calgary, and school trustees are not part of this pilot. It's just council and mayor campaigns that can be involved in political parties, and slates as well. Now, what exactly the province is looking at as the outcomes of this pilot project, or how long this pilot project is going to last, that's not entirely clear. Maybe voter engagement. I think cynics might say looking for candidates friendly to the UCP. There were 2 parties, as mentioned, in Edmonton's election, the Better Edmonton, which was spearheaded by mayoral candidate Tim Cartmel, and they ran a candidate in every riding in Edmonton.
12,
and
right?
then, of course, PACE, the Principled Accountable Coalition for Edmonton, they did not have a mayoral candidate. They ran candidates in 9 of the 12 ridings for council. So a slate, that was something that didn't take off in Edmonton. It's sort of a more relaxed collaboration. The reporting requirements are a little bit lower, but also your fundraising ability is a little bit lower. So that was also introduced in Bill 20, and that didn't seem to to get really any traction, at least in the city of Edmonton.
Okay.
And so the vast majority of the candidates that you saw were not affiliated with any party. Of course, connected to that, we saw new financing rules, new donation limits, disclosure rules for participation in municipal elections, and it sort of allowed, some people characterized it as, the ability to double dip if you're affiliated with a party, right? Because you can raise up to, a person can donate up to $5,000 to a party and also up to $5,000 to a combination of candidates within a calendar year, right? And going back to that provincial civic relationship changing, we also saw the province try to have a much more direct relationship with the Edmonton police, which some people perceived as kind of bypassing, overruling, doing an end run around city council. And the government did this. They amended the Police Act in 2022 to give themselves the power to appoint police commissioners. And since then, this government has increased the number of appointees to the Edmonton Police Commission, which is that nonpartisan oversight body. There was more in Bill 20 that upset a lot of municipal politicians. Outgoing Edmonton Mayor Amarjeet Sohi called it, quote, an attack on local democracy. And Alberta Municipalities President Tyler Gandam, he was the mayor of Wetaskiwin. I'm not sure if he's still the mayor of Wetaskiwin.
Okay.
Wetaskiwin's not posting their results. He said that it was a power grab by the province. This law also gives the province the right to overturn a bylaw passed by a municipal council if it does not align with the province's priorities.
Incredible.
So I guess we'll see whether they ever use that lever.
Yeah.
And it also reopened the door, as I'm sure you've discussed already, to corporate and union donations. That was not allowed in the 2021 municipal election. Last time that was allowed was 2017. And in another bill, the Provincial Priorities Act, the province now requires municipalities to get pre-approval for any new funding agreements or any extended or renewed or amended funding agreements, which was perceived a little bit by some municipalities as additional red tape, bureaucracy, more boxes to check.
Right.
This came about because the Smith government perceived the federal government as meddling, particularly with these housing funding agreements that were that required certain zoning rules to take place in order to get some of that money. And so another bill also allows the province to take over management of a local state of emergency if they feel either the municipality asks them to or they're worried about how they're managing it. And in fact, it's not done. The Premier's recent mandate letter to Municipal Affairs Minister Dan Williams, it actually told him to get more involved in municipal affairs, prodding them to stick to their core mandates.
Incredible.
Yeah.
You think they'd have enough stuff to do at the provincial level, but sounds like they want to get into the municipal level as well. Janet, thank you for that. Maybe later on, if we have time, I want to ask you about when that debate happened around Bill 20. I mean, you covered the Ledge. It might have been a pretty interesting time at the Ledge. So we'll check in with you at the next break.
Sounds good.
Thank you for that. Okay, so we, of course, have Michelle Bellefontaine, who is on the south side at Mimi's Bar, and we're going to go back there and check in with Michelle and find out what's happening. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Min. I just had Michael Walters here, and now he has walked away from me. I got to grab him. There he is.
There you go.
Hello. Here is Michael Walters.
Hi.
Thanks for waiting. So you just talked to your supporters. What was your main message to them?
Well, the message tonight is we don't know what's happening yet, number one. And number two, just gratitude. You know, these campaigns don't happen without all your family, firstly, friends, people willing to make donations, volunteer time. And all for the purpose of, creating a city that we love and that we want to make better and make sure our kids stay here. And so the message tonight was gratitude for them, gratitude for Edmonton, and a hopeful future. And we don't know where the polls are.
Yeah. I think that is one of the big stories of the night. So you're a councillor from, was it 2013 to 2021?
Correct.
2 terms. And so you've been away from council for about 4 years. What is the difference between what you're hearing at the doors now, or what you heard at the doors now, compared to maybe the issues that you heard about while you were on council?
Well, certainly, safety was the sort of top of the pile of concerns that people had this time around. I didn't hear it. You heard little bits of safety concerns before. In 2013 and 2017, but nothing like now. So I think that is something that, a new mayor and council are going to have to make a high priority but then there's specific safety concerns depending on what area of Edmonton you're in. And, you know, of course, across the country, everybody's dealing with affordability issues. So how we look at municipal policy and spending, we need to look at through that lens, and we tried to do that in this campaign. Families are really having a hard time. You know, for a lot of us that were really engaged in this election, it was clear. But for a lot of people, they got a lot of other stuff on their mind than who their city councilor and mayor is. And, you know, you know, what we observed is a lot of people struggling, but a lot of people sort of chin up, still working hard, trying to make the best go at it that they can.
Now you're one of four city councillors or former city councillors running this time around out of 13 candidates. You sort of shouted some of them out there when you were up at the podium. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, it's just a recognition of how hard it is to run for mayor, and you know, they're all good people who care a lot about Edmonton, and I tip my hat to the effort that they made. You know, campaigns are policy competitions. They're a little bit about vibes, and you know, everything's on social media now and everything's so digital, but ultimately, you know, the sort of nub of it is people are trying to put forward the ideas that are going to make the city better, and policy does matter at the end of the day, and it takes sort of courage to try and, you know, pick a position, communicate a position, and defend that position in the face of people arguing with you about it, and it's hard work. So congratulations to everybody who took a crack at this.
All right, well, thanks very much for making time for us.
My pleasure.
We'll have to see what happens. Yeah,
Thank you.
for sure. So, I mean, there you have it. That's Michael Walters, one of 13 people vying for the position of mayor here in Edmonton.
Okay, Michelle, thank you for that. That is Michelle Bellefontaine at the Michael Walters Watch Party on the south side at Mimi's Pub. We heard from Michael Walters, who I think, you know, to no one's surprise, ran a pretty good campaign. He was a popular councillor when he was in City Hall. Troy, what do you think from what you saw from him, and just some of his thoughts on policy and some of the issues that Edmontonians are grappling with?
I mean, I talked to Michael Walters back in 2021 when he decided he wasn't going to run again as a councillor. And at that point, he said, essentially, if I was to run as mayor right now, I would win. He was very confident at that time. And I don't think that he was wrong. I think what he didn't bank on is how little name recognition matters in a city that's growing as rapidly as it is right now. Like, when Amarjeet Sohi was elected mayor, there's an additional 200,000 Edmontonians in the city. Stephen Mandel, you know, he endorsed Michael Walters, he endorsed Harman Condola, he endorsed many people all across the city. I don't think his endorsement carries a lot of weight. It might have 10 years ago, but like half the city has never heard of Stephen Mandel.
Right.
We are a rapidly growing city and a rapidly growing voter base, and that really, like Annika was mentioning earlier, like the Michael Oshry of it all, other councillors who have taken a break and come back, they're finding their name recognition really isn't potent. And I think that's what really ate Michael Walters here. He declared quite late into the race.
Right.
Tim Cartmel had already raised at that point $500,000. And, you know, Michael Walters and Tim Cartmel want to draw from a similar pool of finances.
Sure.
So it makes it really hard to get a big campaign off the ground.
Yeah. Emmanuel, your thoughts on what you've seen from Michael Walters?
Well, Michael Walters, like I said, part of the Comeback Boys.
Right, the Comeback Boys, how could I forget?
You know, trying to, you know, show up again in the municipal conversation, and, you know, after taking that break, and, you know, pointed to Oshry, talked about Crucial, who, you know, did, you know, same approach, but didn't gain traction. Unfortunately, Michael just didn't gain traction either. Now, the other thing about Michael is when you look at his stance, or where he stands, or where he's placed, and like you mentioned earlier, nobody could place him. They weren't sure on what side of the aisle they could place him. And I think that's with the city of Edmonton, especially when there's so many complex issues, you know, municipal issues, provincial issues, federal issues, international issues, everything impacting how people make their decisions, especially in this election. You know, people want to know where you stand. People want to know if you align with their values. People want to know if they can count on you to advocate for their issues. And so if they can't place you, you're probably not the person that they're looking for. And when you have an unpopular council, and yet the two front runners are current
From that council,
from
yeah.
that council, it tells you something. It tells you that people are maybe would, the devil.
At least reply somebody's emails or get back to them, even if it's a straight no. People want to be heard and people want answers. So you're representing people. You're being the voice of people. But nobody hears your voice as a councillor. So why are you always silent during your council terms? And why are you always active in the last couple of months when you're actually out there asking for votes? So that is not okay.
What were some of the biggest concerns that you've heard when you were door knocking and talking to residents?
Councillors not being present. Yeah, and people were like, they've done numerous emails after emails, phone calls after phone calls, but they don't get a straight answer. Second thing, it's that approach where the councillors think, this is perfect for my ward. If it's perfect for the whole city, I'll just paste it in my ward as well. So it's just that copy-paste mentality. No, every ward is different. Matter of fact, every community is different. You might like pizza and I don't like pizza, but what if I just force the pizza on you? Will you like it? No. So we need to stop that approach. When you're a voice of people, when you're elected by the people, when you want their vote, you come out with all those promises, but at the end of the day, you forget them and you're like, I'm just going to do what I think is good. No, we need to stop that mentality. Community is built by us, not I. So we need to have that us part in there.
Why do you think then having a political party like Better Edmonton might help this process and might change the way things have been going?
Because you know what, it's a team. At the end of the day, you go at, even in schools when we were kids, or even in corporate world, anywhere you go, they always emphasize that teamwork is dream work. We all bring our own skills to the desk. We bring individual qualities together, and we bring our skill sets together, and then that's what we bring to the table. And I think it's a great thing because you have 12 different experiences that you're collaborating together, and we're taking it to the city hall. And you know what? I think it's a great thing.
Thanks so much for speaking with us tonight, and good luck.
Thank you.
Anisha. Okay, bye-bye. Okay. So in the room here, I've been hearing a lot of calm optimism from people of all different ages, young and older, and there's this resounding kind of call for safer neighborhoods, more responsible infill. These are some of the big issues. Now we're getting some election results in.
Okay, thanks, Natasha. Yeah, we certainly are getting some results in. We are going to check in with Janet French now, who is back in studio and is smiling. So I'm hoping, I'm assuming that's some good news. Natasha's saying that we're getting some polls returning.
We do have some results. Yeah.
Good for them.
From the city of Edmonton.
Yes.
I mean, we had results, they just weren't from here. So weren't from within city limits. Right. So again, these are super, super preliminary. We're talking about, for mayor, we're talking about 2 of 238 polls reporting.
Okay.
And we have Andrew Knack leading with 377 votes. So that's 39-ish%. And in second place, Tim Cartmel with about 24% of the vote cast so far. Again, super early.
Yeah.
Third place, Omar Mohammed, pediatric dentist.
Third place.
Yeah, with about 15% of the vote. And we have results from a couple of council seats as well. So I'm just scrolling.
Yeah,
It's a
no
very
problem.
long web page.
While you're scrolling,
no, I'm there.
Why do you suppose it took so long to start seeing some of these results?
Right. So we did hear from Elections Edmonton just about 20 minutes ago. My colleagues got some information. What we heard was that actually some folks were still voting. And so they had started counting,
Right.
but they weren't releasing results until everybody had voted at every polling station. And they were
Which makes
just
sense.
closing up those final few polling stations at around 10:20. That's
10:20.
2 hours and 20 minutes
minutes.
after polls
That is a
were
long
meant
time.
to close.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll hop back into results if you'd
Okay,
like.
yeah, absolutely.
Oh, no, you don't want any results. No.
No, we would love to
okay,
have
you'd
results.
like some results. Okay.
Yeah.
So Papasteo, the incumbent there is Michael Jans.
Right.
He is leading with 64% of the vote. And again, one poll reporting out of 20, very preliminary. And we've also got some results from Tastawinawak, which is in the north.
Okay.
And I'm scrolling again to try and find it because, again, it's a very long web page. So Karen Principe is, Karen Principe is the incumbent there. She has about 48% of the vote. Again, one of 23 polls reporting, but she's got 1,338 votes so far.
And she's the better Edmonton candidate.
She is the better Edmonton candidate. Yeah, that's right, with the Tim Cartmell's party.
Okay.
And in second place there is Jennifer Porritt, who's quite a ways back with about 17%, 18% of the vote. And we've got some trustees. So I thought this was going to come in order, like mayor, then councillor. No.
Right.
As they counted them in order, but they're not releasing the results in order.
Yeah.
Which is fine. So we do have some Catholic trustee results coming in. We've got Sandra Palazzo. She has been the chair of the Edmonton Catholic School Board. She's got about 80% of the vote in Ward 72.
Okay.
In Ward 73, in which there is no incumbent, Kara Pellick is leading with, again, one poll reporting of 32, 63% of the vote so far. Debbie Engel, that longtime trustee I mentioned, she
27 years,
has 76% of the vote in Ward 74 for the Catholic Board. And just moving on to the Public School Board, we've got some results from Ward C. Holly Nickel is leading there. Again, one of 32 polls reporting, so very early.
Right.
Leading there with 82.8% of the vote. Challenger is Amy Jo Clow. And in Ward F, this is Julie Cusick. She was the chair of the Public School Board at dissolution. She is facing a challenge so far with one, again, caveat,
poll,
asterisk, one poll reporting.
Okay.
She's got 51% of the vote, and her challenger, Alex Marshall, has 49% of the vote.
Oh,
so
that
it
is
is
quite a
tight.
challenge.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's good to see some tight races and as well as some early returns. Janet, thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
All right. Let us check in with Travis McEwen, who is at Andrew Knack's watch party at this hour. Travis, are you there?
I am, and I'm excited to talk to you as we're finally getting some results here, man.
Yeah, we're excited for those results. Janet just bringing some of them to us. I mean, it is a slow trickle, but who knows? Maybe that changes, and all of a sudden it becomes a bit of a gusher. We can only hope.
And as Andrew Knack, two things happened. Just shortly, Andrew Knack came back up here. People got excited, started cheering, and then they saw the early results and that he's up right now. Obviously, a lot of this people in this room excited. You know, he's moving around, saying hi to people. People are excited. You know, he's kind of popping in and out of this party because the thing was, too, we've been waiting to see if he's going to speak tonight and when. But the thing is, they didn't know if there was going to be any results, so maybe he was just going to speak to supporters. Maybe it would be a victory speech. So I think now that some results are coming in, we're kind of waiting to see when he might actually speak and wait that out because it could be a bit of a late night here.
Yeah, I think it is going to be a late night for sure, Travis, and that is part of the challenge for these candidates, when to talk to the folks who are supporting them, and you know, they're also probably keeping an eye on these polls coming in.
I mean, we've got one guy we can introduce you to here real quick, who's definitely very excited here. We've got Andrew Knack's father, Richard Knack. Richard, how are you feeling right now with early polls?
Well, one poll, it's hard to, well, it's exciting, and we hope to see that increase, and then we'll really get excited. It's for the city of Edmonton. He's wanting to do this, and he's the right person. So hopefully we see this continue all night long.
Why do you feel he's the right person?
Well, just everything with right from homelessness, the people in this room, the volunteers have been amazing. We had a fella staying downtown on his anniversary, came out and did flyers on Sunday, left early. It's amazing, these people just continually to work for them. And that's what he does for the city of Edmonton. For 12 years he's been doing it.
What's the pride you're feeling as Andrew's father as you watch this mayoral run and the results come in?
Oh, it's really, rewarding in a sense to see the people are now seeing what he's done. I look at the West End and Lewis Farms Rec Center Library. It was voted down either twice or 3 times. We live in the West End and they need it. There's not a library out in that end of the city, and that's essential. Just in the last week to see Andrew out supporting teachers. I mean, he literally supports the people of the city, and we need that in a mayor. So it's exciting.
Awesome. Thanks, Richard. Appreciate your time.
All right.
Yeah, and right now we're going to see if the results will keep coming in and if this lead continues for Andrew Knack here.
Okay, thanks for that, Travis. That is Travis McEwen at Andrew Knack's campaign headquarters. That's pretty special for Andrew's father, Richard, there to, I know it's only one poll returning, but it's a positive one for them and the work that they've done. What are your thoughts on Andrew Knack and just hearing from his dad?
Can I say first
Yeah.
how much I love Richard Knack? And he's Andrew Knack's dad, but Andrew Knack has told this story many times. He grew up in Spruce Grove. It's a very conservative riding, and he held pretty conservative views, right?
Right.
Andrew's pretty open that, as a younger individual, he didn't really believe in people's right to exist on the LGBTQ to SIA spectrum. The pivot shift he has now is 180 degrees. But when you have a son who is becoming more progressive in his views, usually the dad gets left behind, right? That's a typical Albertan story.
Yeah.
And to see Richard Knack on the front lines, door knocking for Andrew Knack, it's just a really heartwarming Albertan story. And I love the guy. It's like I said, it's really hard to hate Andrew Knack. It's also really hard to hate Richard Knack.
He's clearly had an influence on his dad over the time that he's been on council and maybe changed his views, right? So I know we've been talking about the teacher strike, and we heard about some of the returns to the school board trustee election. Annika, what impact do you think the teacher strike is having on voting in some of these trustees?
Yeah, I'm not sure about the trustees specifically. I actually had a big curiosity as to whether it would impact the councillor and mayoral races as
Right.
well, because I think it was pretty clear that there were some candidates who were out there in red marching and some who didn't speak out against it but were not really around. So I think in terms of the trustees, I don't know, I was reading the profiles and none of them are don't fund public education. I don't think
Sure.
you should be running for trustee if that's not what
Yeah.
you want.
Don't think
guess
it'd
that's my
help you
inside
out.
voice, but I did wonder if it was going to be to borrow from the feds, if it was going to be like the tariffs. All of a sudden, this teacher strike, I was like, ooh, what will
Yeah.
happen? I haven't seen a huge fluctuation in the polls
Yeah.
because of it, but I guess time will tell. I don't know if anyone else has other thoughts on that. I've never been happy that my kids are in daycare, but the last 2 weeks I have been.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite a battle. And Emmanuel, maybe because it's a provincial issue and they're dealing with the provincial government at the municipal level, it just maybe it doesn't have that much of a connection unless you're keying in on certain people to vote for when it comes to the school board trustees.
Well, I think that a lot of people were making their decisions, like I said, based on a lot of issues, and it might not have been a specific municipal issue, but I think we can be rest assured that provincial issues played a factor.
Yeah.
And the school board, the school strike definitely made a lot of people make their decisions whichever way that was. Yeah. So if not the school board trustees, I think the councillors and the mayors were impacted by the strike. Now, one thing I'll add though is some of the people I talked to before they went to vote were struggling to figure out which school board trustee to vote for, and that's because each of them were supporting schools. They attended the rallies, and so you struggled with who to pick. And I think a lot of people just, at the end, they made their decision. But you're not going to see, or me potentially, I don't think we're going to see a big of an impact on who people voted for school board trustee. I think a lot of it will be more on name recognition, or if a person was an incumbent, and things like that. Even the money they raised, you know, a lot of them didn't raise that much. They raised, you know, pretty low amounts. But you'll see a bigger impact on the council.
I know we talked about a number of different issues. Troy, we haven't really touched on taxes and budgeting at the city council. What are your thoughts about the incoming mayor and the new councillors and how they're going to have to tackle that?
Man, I hate that you're asking, because you're asking a really good question that I want to talk about. Can I talk about school board a little bit? Because
Absolutely, yes.
Here's the thing. I think this school board race is actually fascinating. And again, early results here.
Yeah.
But teacher strike is on, and Julie Cusick, who is the current school board chair, is 2 percentage points higher than Alex Marshall, who doesn't really have social media. I think this is a huge indictment on the current school board.
Situation,
and I think that school trustees are going to be hard-pressed as incumbencies. And we talked earlier about slates and parties and how they don't apply to school boards.
Right.
And that's true, except you kind of got a bit of a slate going on. Progressive trustees who want change have sort of coalesced, and you saw Support Our Students Alberta had put together a school trustee progressive list that ranked candidates, and you know, it was a survey. It wasn't really a slate, but it kind of felt like a slate. And we're seeing members of that, we won't call it a slate, but Alex Marshall, Holly Nickel, performing very well in early trustee returns for public school board. So I think this is fascinating because school trustee is not a race that is typically interesting in any way. So that there's interesting stuff here, I think very cool.
Yeah, maybe the strike is having a huge impact on it. Janet is back in the studio. So Janet, welcome back. You have some results?
I do. I've got more.
Potentially here from
again,
Edmonton?
still all the caveats apply, but extremely preliminary.
Okay.
So we've now got 3 polls reporting for mayor. Again, that's 3 out of 236, 1.3% of the vote tallied and reported here so far. Andrew Knack still leading with 528 votes. That is 39%, which, I mean, 13 candidates. He's got 39%. That's a thing. And Tim Cartmel in second place. He's got 340 votes. Again, he's the leader of that Better Edmonton party with 25% of the vote. We've got some preliminary results from Ward Dene. That's in the Northeast.
Right.
So Aaron Paquette is the incumbent there. He is leading. Just one poll reporting, one of 20 polls reporting. 39% of the vote, rounding, got to happen on the fly here, with 228 votes cast. And Lana Palmer is in second place there with 25.3%. Troy was just talking about school board. I was very interested in Ward D, and we do have some results now from Ward D.
Okay.
That was where Tricia Estabrooks, the former board chair, was until she resigned from the board. And so now, again, one poll reporting, one of 36 polls, so just 2.8% of the vote. Nicola Anderson is leading there. There's 4 people running for that seat. Nicola Anderson leading with 44% of the vote. That's 103 votes so far.
Okay. There was a plebiscite in Grand Prairie on the ballot there. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, the County of Northern Lights, folks there were asked to, they had 2 plebiscite questions. One of them was, do you support a nuclear power generation facility within the County of Northern Lights?
Okay.
And they leaned on no. 450 people voted no, and 338 voted yes.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you for that update.
You're welcome.
All right, Janet French with a look at polls that are coming in. I know we were supposed to go till 10, then we pushed it to 10:30. Now we're pushing it to 11. I want from our panel who have weighed in on all of the issues tonight, so I really want to thank you for doing that. Just maybe some last thoughts. Whoever wants to take it away here.
I could start.
Okay.
I think for me, one thing I'm going to be really looking at is finances and spend. The cost of this election.
Right.
We're going to be able, like we look at Sohi's election and his win, it cost him and his campaign about just over $6 per voter.
Right.
And when you look at Iverson before him, it was about 50% of that. So if Tim Cartmel wins today, it'd probably be one of the most expensive elections in Edmonton, and considering low vote turnout, significantly more, potentially significantly more than what Sohi spent. And if NAC wins, then you're going to have probably one of the least expensive campaigns. So that's something I'm going to be looking at. And when I look at the finances for these people, it's potentially with Tim going to create a new era of Edmonton municipal elections, which would then be if he wins, then there is that floodgate of money, special interests, donations into elections. But if he doesn't win, then potentially a bitter lesson and a rejection of the new pilot project, I guess.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, Emmanuel, thanks for that. Annika?
Yeah, I think, regardless of how tonight goes, I'm excited to see what the next council, how they move to forward together, including all of their partners at various other levels of jurisdictions. So I think that in the day of maybe social media and some other things, I think these campaigns are spicy. It's more divisive than I remember anyway. I think it's kind of one of those things. You're always playing to win, but you have to play in a way that it's going to be okay if someone gets traded tomorrow. You don't want to be that guy on the ice that's no one wants on their team because you play that that dirty style, right? You want to make sure that you are working hard and doing those things. And so I don't know. I've started to see some of the rhetoric get to that point where I go, how will you work with people if you win?
Right.
And time will tell. But I just am hopeful that we look at how do we move forward together as things start to get things used to be a bit more cordial municipally, and we've started to see those other much bigger, spicier sentiments roll in, and I just hope that it doesn't offer a wedge that creates a two-party type thing, because I think the beauty of municipal politics, parties or no parties, is that there are more than two in any given situation. And so that's my curiosity and my hope. Level. And like I said, I want Edmonton to thrive.
Let's get over to Troy here before we say goodnight.
I think one of the takeaways that we're going to look back at this election is, not to call it too early, but looking at the trend. Andrew Knack is well ahead in terms of the mayoral race, and Tim Cartmel, who spent a lot of money, isn't. And I think there's going to be a lot spent examining why that is. And I think one of the things that's a really cogent moment for me is Tim Cartmel's campaign started to take a nosedive when he missed the infill vote, right? This was very poor for his campaign. It was a blight and he couldn't get away from it. It just kept coming back. But if we really investigate why that happened, right? This was council scheduling, and this was Tim Cartmel wanting to have a vacation when there was business on the table. But at that point in time, he had declared 12 candidates that was running against everyone else that he was working with. He told everyone he was currently working with as colleagues, I don't think you're good at your jobs, and I think you should be replaced. How do you have a productive working relationship when someone is campaigning with that? And so council is not inclined to extend him any grace whatsoever. And this is sort of what Annika is getting to. This is the party politics, and it was an effectively two-party system because there was a party and there was not a party.
Right.
And this is the danger of parties. This is what we're going to look at in the future. And I think this is going to be the takeaway is if you are going to do a party system, if Tim was building a party that included incumbents and was saying, I want to be the leader of a team that has a particular vision, he very well could be successful because the benefits of consistent messaging, consistent branding, very powerful.
Okay.
We didn't see it.
I'm going to have to cut you off there, Troy. Thank you so much. On behalf of our panel, thank you so much for taking the time this evening. I am in Dhariwal. You've been tuned in to the CBC Edmonton Municipal Election. You can keep watching our election coverage. Sandra Batson will have the TV news coming up, and you can see it on Samsung TV, Roku. You can also check out the CBC Edmonton TikTok, and make sure you check out our radio coverage. We will have it on the radio later on this evening as well as tomorrow as well. Thank you very much and have a good evening.